I've had a few questions regarding the CT installation for the Sol-Ark 15K inverters. So I thought I would shoot a quick video on how to install those CTs. Now you want those CTs installed where your utility power is coming in. Their main supplier from the utility coming into the inverters, because what you're trying to measure is if you're selling back to the grid, you want to measure the current that is flowing back out. The utility comes in the top and it supplies power to the inverters. So when my PV panels are insufficient to power the load and my batteries are insufficient to power the load, the utility power will come in, come to the inverters, and then back out to this output panel. And then that will ultimately go to my house. So what you want to do is measure where your utility power for that main panel is feeding your inverters. And for me, it's this panel right here. I've shown you a one line, or not a one line, it's just a block diagram of how I'm doing that. So this panel right here, which comes off my main, and this feeds my inverter system. So any back feed from my Sol-Arks into the utility would have to come through here. So I install my CTs on the line side of this main breaker and this inverter input panel. It's pretty straightforward. You just got to make sure that you get the arrow directions proper on your CTs so you can get some accurate measurements. Okay, let me show you. This is the inside of my utility inverter input panel. So my utility power comes into the line side of this panel right up here, and then I feed out to my inverters through these two 125 amp breakers, and each one of those breakers feed one of these Sol-Ark 15K panels, inverters. I've had some questions about this CT on how it should be installed. And if you're not selling back to the grid, you don't necessarily have to even have these CTs. But I went ahead and installed them, and there is a specific way they need to be installed. What I'm trying to monitor is the current flowing back into the utility grid. So I need to, the power is coming in. Now this is energized, but the power is coming in from the utility. So I want to measure the power going out. So I want my CT with the arrow pointing to the utility. Okay. Now this panel and the other one would be the same way. Now this, as you can tell, this CT is put on backwards from this one, in that the arrow marking is not on this side, it's on the other side. So I just put this little marking on here so I would know which way the arrow is pointing. You want the arrows pointing to the utility. And then I numbered the CTs 1 and 2, because that's line 1 and line 2, and that's going to be important when you go back over to the inverter when you hook that up. Now these CTs are going to go in where your main power is coming in. So this, I have a breaker box on the other side where my utility comes in, And then a sub 200 amp breaker feeds this panel, which then feeds into the Sol-Arks over here. And then the output of the Sol-Arks coming into this panel. These other breakers aren't being used. And then out this breaker going to a transfer switch and then back to the house. So the utility power would come in here over to my inverters and then back out through this panel onto my house. Of course, the inverters have PV input and battery input as well. But this is how you would install these CTs. Now the length of the wire, they were too short to make it to where I have my inverters installed. In fact, I end up having to splice them inside this cabinet right here, which I showed on a previous video. And then they wire right up here into this little terminal block. So it's going to be important that you know which CT is line 1 and which one is line 2, because that's how you're going to wire them in to this little terminal strip. Now this is on a Sol-Ark 15K, the 12K and the 8K may be different, I don't know. But if you do that, you should be good.